welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about the craziest ways the most infamous serial killers got caught. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and let's just jump into the video. So the first serial killer we're going to be talking about is BTK. The BTK killer was caught because he didn't know how technology worked. Dennis Rader, aka BTK, was a serial killer that murdered 10 people during a 16-year killing spree between the years of 1974 and 1991. BTK stands for bind, torture, and kill. He would use these methods against his victims. He would bind them with rope, wire, or clothing, strangling them to almost the brink of death, and then allowing them to regain consciousness, only to repeat the process, torturing them all over again. No one suspected him because he was a family man with a normal, happy life. He was a pillar in his community, and he even worked at a security system company. After his first few killings, BTK would start writing the police in the local newspapers. He would send the IDs of his victims, articles of their clothing, drawings, letters, poems, and other disturbing items to show off that he was actually the killer. He would also leave packages containing evidence of his crimes in public. While he was committing these murders, he would send police letters taunting them with details of his crimes. The police had no clue who was committing these crimes, and they were having a hard time finding someone as a suspect, so the case began to go cold. Almost 10 years after his killing spree, BTK spontaneously decided to send a letter to the police. BTK wanted to ramp up the investigations again, so he left a mysterious box in the back of a pickup truck in the parking lot of a Home Depot. This box contained a document with details of the committed. On one of the documents, BTK asked if he sent over a floppy disk, would it be traceable? And the police responded and said, no, we're not going to be able to trace it. Send it on over. BTK used the disk on his church computer and then sent it over to the Fox station where the police collected the floppy disk. The police uncovered that the person who wrote the letter was named Dennis and that he owned a black Cherokee and had a connection to a local Lutheran church. After a 30-year investigation, the police finally found their man. However, they only had circumstantial evidence, so they needed a little bit more evidence to actually make an arrest. So the police decided to take BTK's daughter's DNA from her pap smear that she had previously done. They took this DNA and then matched it to BTK's DNA that he left at a crime scene, and what do you know? It was a match. So they were finally able to make their arrest. BTK went on to trial, and then he told the police about the details of the crimes he committed. He was sentenced to 10 consecutive life terms in prison and a minimum of 175 years in prison with the possibility of parole.
It's 4 members.
All right, what happened then?
At that time, I tied him up.
While still holding him at gunpoint?
Well, in between tying and yes. There, I realized that, I didn't have a mask on or anything. They already could ID me, and made a decision to go ahead and put him down, I guess, or strangle him.
So the next serial killer we're going to talk about is Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy was a serial killer that was caught by driving a stolen car. Ted Bundy was a serial killer that would bludgeon 36 women into unconsciousness in the 1970s. He was suspected to have as many as 100 women. He would typically approach his victims in public places and pretend to be injured to get their sympathy and for them to come over and talk to him. He committed brutal murder and even kept the severed heads of his victims in his house as mementos. He often returned to the crime scenes to perform sexual acts on the decomposing bodies. Ted Bundy was originally arrested in Utah after failing to pull over for a routine traffic stop. In his car, the police found a ski mask, ropes, handcuffs, a crowbar, and an ice pick. However, the police could not hold him and they had to release him. Later, Ted was finally picked out of a lineup and was put on trial for kidnapping. He was convicted of his crime and then extradited to Colorado to stand trial for the murder of Karen Campbell. In this case, Ted served as his own attorney. He was able to go to the courthouse library to look up documents to help his case. While he was in the library, he escaped through a window. He was free for 6 days before the police arrested him for driving a stolen car erratically. While he was sitting in jail for a second time, he was already planning his second escape. He was able to escape again with the help of a friend and future wife, Carol Ann Boone. He went to Florida and then killed 4 female college students in a 15-minute span. Then he got into a car and drove off Ted Bundy was seen by the police driving a car without any headlights, and the police found out that it was stolen. The officer pulled him over, and he didn't initially know who he was. He just knew that it was a stolen car and he was going to arrest the guy for driving it. And when the cop was talking to Ted, Ted had given him a fake ID. He went to arrest him and they had a brutal struggle, but he was finally caught. They found out 2 days later who he actually was. They found out that, oh man, we have Ted Bundy. So they were like ecstatic about it. When Ted was caught, he confessed to all of his and his crimes.
There is just absolutely no way to describe, first, the brutal urge to do that kind of thing, and then what happens is once it has been more or less satisfied and recedes, you might say, or spent, that sense, that kind of energy level recedes, and basically I became myself again. I want people to understand this too, and I'm not saying this gratuitously because it's important that people understand this, that basically I was a normal person. I wasn't some guy hanging out at bars or a bum, or I wasn't a pervert in the sense that, you know, people look at somebody and say, I know there's something wrong with him, and just tell. I mean, I was essentially a normal person. I had good friends. I led a normal life, except for this one small but very potent and very destructive segment of it that I kept very secret and very close to myself and didn't let anybody know about it. And part of the shock and horror from my dear friends and family years ago when I was first arrested was that there was no clue. They looked at me and they looked at the all-American boy. And I mean, I wasn't perfect, but I want to be quite candid with you. I was okay. Okay.
So next we're going to talk about Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer was caught because he trusted his victims. Jeffrey Dahmer was a serial killer that strangled, dismembered, and ate his victims. He was connected to 17 murders. He preyed on young men from Milwaukee, Wisconsin from 1978 to 1991. He lured his victims to his apartment by promising money for photos. He tried to do this with his last victim. He had handcuffed him and held him there by a knife. Jeffrey told the victim that he was going to eat his heart. Jeffrey had left his guard down when his victim asked to use the bathroom. And when he did this, his victim actually punched him in the face and escaped. After the victim escaped, he saw police and he led police back to Jeffrey's apartment. In his apartment, the police discovered graphic photos of his victims, different body parts in his refrigerator, barrels of decomposing remains, and evidence of cannibalism. Jeffrey was convicted from 15 consecutive life sentences. While he was in prison, he was beaten to death by another inmate.
These obsessive desires and thoughts wanting to control them, to, I don't know how to put it, possess them permanently.
And that's why you killed them?
Right, right. Not because I was angry with them, not because I hated them, but because I wanted to keep them with me.
The next serial killer we're going to talk about is the Son of Sam. The Son of Sam was caught from a parking ticket. David Berkowitz, aka the Son of Sam, was a serial killer that killed 6 people and wounded 7 people with a .44 caliber revolver. He terrorized the streets of New York City in 1976. While he was committing these crimes, he was sending a series of letters to the police. I don't know why these serial killers enjoy sending letters to the police like they're not going to get caught. You're going to get caught. Stop sending these letters. You're gonna get caught. But anyway, because of these letters, he gained national popularity and everybody knew who the Son of Sam was. Seeing a pattern with his victims, they realized that he was targeting female with long brown hair. So women started to cut their hair or even dye it blonde, and they tried to stay inside as much as possible. After a year-long killing spree, the Son of Sam went out one night searching for his victim, and while he was out searching for his victim, an eyewitness saw him walking. She didn't know who he was, but an eyewitness saw him carrying something awkwardly in his sleeve. Soon after, shots rang out and she saw a man holding a gun running to a cream-colored Ford Galaxy. The eyewitness noticed that there was a parking ticket on that car's windshield, so she told the police about this, and the police were able to search through the tickets and found out that that car did get a ticket and it was registered to David Berkowitz. Soon after, the police arrested him while he was leaving his home. He was carrying a semi-automatic rifle and admitted that he was on his way to shoot another victim. He claimed that demons in a black Labrador retriever belonging to his neighbor named Sam commanded him to commit. He was given a 25-year to life sentence.
David Berkowitz today. The difference.
The David Berkowitz of the past was a very guy living without any hope, and was a very troubled and tormented person. I believe that I was a demon possessed, and the reason is because I allowed Satan to enter into me, and through rituals and incantations and other stupid things. I look back at that and say, man, that was garbage. I was an idiot to even do those things, but I didn't think it was going to end in destruction of others and even throwing my own life away. But today, thanks to Christ, today I'm living with hope. I know that God has forgiven me, even though others may never forgive me, and I have peace with God. I have peace with myself. I have joy. I have a future.
The last serial killer we're going to talk about is Albert Fish. Albert Fish, aka the Gray Man, the Werewolf of Wisteria, and possibly the Brooklyn Vampire, was caught because he used the wrong paper. This man was the early 20th century serial killer. He was and a cannibal. He claimed that he killed over 100 people, but he was only suspected to 5, and he confessed to 3 of them. I believe he killed his victims by stabbing them, and after killing a young girl, he couldn't resist sending an anonymous letter to his last victim's mother, describing in detail what he did to her, which ended up being his downfall. What is up with these serial killers sending letters? I don't get it. He told her mother how he kidnapped and ate her. He sent this letter in an envelope that he found in his boarding room in the house he was staying in. The envelope was left by a janitor who worked for a private company and lived in the rooms prior to Albert. The envelope had a logo of a private chauffeur company. Because of this, police were able to trace it back to Albert. Albert was caught and executed by the electric chair in 1936 in the Sing Sing Correctional Facility in New York. So this was the 5 different serial killers that got caught in crazy ways. There are so many other serial killers that got caught in crazy ways. I just picked these 5 because I knew the most about them. If you guys want to see another video on other serial killers that got caught in crazy ways, just let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And see you guys in the next video. Bye.